All right, let's get this thing started. My name is Atomic Moon. With me, as always, my boy over here, DM Punk, who has recently been living up to his billing and messaged MVP recently. Why don't you walk us all through that experience that you recently had there at DM?
Oh, I was just talking to him about his segment on Raw the other night with Randy and Ed.
Exciting stuff. You also messaged Matt Riddle at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, Matt Riddle, he'll talk to you pretty much. I just anytime I get somebody that'll message me back, I always try to keep in contact with them in case something comes up that people would want to know about.
That is pretty surprising that MVP replied to you, being that I get why he would answer you before he was on or when he wasn't with Raw, but now that he's a big time star, but still reaching out to the little people, I think that's pretty.
We've we've met before outside of wrestling. We were both purple belts in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at the same time, and so we competed in some tournaments against each other since he lives in Houston.
How about that? How about that? I've got my Matt Hardy Delete shirt. The final episode of the Delete series that he has on YouTube was airing today. I have not watched it yet. I really haven't watched any of them mainly because the Young Bucks are on them. But have you been keeping up with that saga?
A bit. I dilapidated both. Yes.
Senor Benjamin. I'm pretty excited to see how they're going to work that in with the Dork Order, if I can borrow a phrase from Jim Cornette.
I mean, Cornette has been getting lots of airtime on the Ruthless Aggression series on network.
Yeah, and they're about to do season 2 of Dark Side of the Ring. I think he's going to be pretty heavily commentating on that too.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
First episode's Benoit.
Oh, has it already started coming out?
No, it hasn't come out yet, but they've announced what the first episode's going to be. It's
Oh,
going to
okay.
be Benoit. They've announced what some of the episodes are going to be, but they've said the first one that's going to air is going to be Benoit. So
Yeah, it's like
pretty
Benoit.
excited.
There's also an Owen Hart one, and that's about all I've heard so far. Um, so it's been a little bit since we've. It's probably been about a month since we've talked on here, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. 2 pay-per-views, lots of Wednesday night action going on. We usually kind of start these things with some sort of angry rant, and I'm gonna go ahead and go on an angry rant right now and say that Friday Night SmackDown is probably got to be the worst show on television at this point. I mean, like last week when the NWO came out and they had their thing with Sami Zayn, I tweeted out that I literally thought about just turning my TV off and just giving up on wrestling. I mean, and I've as you well know, I've really only gotten back into wrestling over the past several years, and I've completely missed Sami Zayn's reign in NXT and when he was kind of relevant there. So, I guess I missed his glory days. Maybe I need to go back and watch some of that. But for me now, anytime he comes on TV, it's X-Pac heat with me, like, which was so ironic that him and X-Pac kind of had a standoff there. But I can't stand him. I don't even want to watch it. Like,
Well, I mean, he is like a bad guy, and his character is basically suited to get heat from someone like you. So, in that sense, he's doing his job because his whole gimmick is basically that society is a bunch of terrible people, and internet trolls are what's caused it all. And so, I think he's kind of hit a nerve with you.
maybe that's it. Maybe
I
that's.
feel I feel like that may be the sitch.
But like, I get heat. MJF is my favorite wrestler. Like, I love heels. Like, I like watching Baron Corbin. But
Yeah,
Sami Zayn
but
just.
that's not real heat. Come on, that's not like when Randy Orton comes out and takes out just Edge's wife or something. Like
Come to find out that Randy Orton through the years has dished out a lot of RKO's to a lot of different female wrestlers.
oh yeah, definitely.
It's almost
Yeah,
a rite of passage at this point, really.
it's like the Randy handshake at this point. Yeah.
It is indeed a lot.
For those of you that don't know the Randy Orton handshake, it is apparently it became an issue and was dealt with by WWE HR, but apparently Randy Orton used to, anytime there was a new talent in the back, male or female, he would walk up to them with his hand inside of his pants, holding his genitals, and then he would offer a handshake to them and make them shake his hand. Like, are you not going to shake my hand? I'm one of the oldest tenured guys here. You're not going to shake my hand? That's so disrespectful. Until they shook his hand and got what do you want to call it? Wiener sauce all over.
Wiener sauce, yes, we're going to call it that. I heard that he would just be completely naked and try to offer a handshake, just like be there completely naked, but not drawing any attention to it.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of those claims, no, even the handshake claim. But I mean, if it's this big of a story now, I feel like there's some truth to at least the handshake story.
Oh, it's one of those things I want to believe. You know, if I'm going to believe Randy Orton as this terrifying heel, you know, if he's willing to go out and just massacre Jeff Hardy on national TV, you know, I wouldn't really put wiener sauce, past him. So, speaking of Beth Phoenix and Edge made his triumphant return back to Raw. Was there a specific reason for the month layoff other than the storyline, or do you think they just have him signed to just a certain amount of appearances?
I'd say limited appearances.
Yeah,
they just wanted to limit the number of his appearances. They've done that in the past when they've had Lesnar or somebody like that coming in for a pay-per-view. Even when Tyson Fury did the thing in Saudi Arabia with Braun Strowman, they just had a smaller number of appearances for it, because if you bring them in every week, you're really asking them to do too much, maybe, because they're not necessarily in the mode of working all the time. I don't think that necessarily would have been the deal with Edge. I think probably more so it's a time off issue. He's just being paid to be there this many times. He probably got a pretty good deal, because apparently AEW made an offer to him and they counter offered that. So he probably got quite a bit of money and a pretty good deal. Like, I'm only going to work this off so often. So
yeah, I could definitely see that. Like I said, with a lot of ground to cover here. Let's go ahead and go back to the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view and what I refer to as just the mismanagement of Bray Wyatt's character as the Fiend. I've loved his character when it came out, but I feel like they've overused it, overhyped it. I didn't agree with them giving him the belt in the first place, and now he loses the belt to Bill Goldberg.
All those weeks ago, when Rambling Rabbit told Seth that he knew how to beat the Fiend, we just didn't know that it was a shitty jackhammer. If he'd have told him that, maybe that's why he was maybe only trying to tell Seth that, is because Seth was going to face him in Saudi Arabia, and maybe it has to be a shitty jackhammer in Saudi Arabia. Maybe that's what it takes, and so it's a two-step process. And so that's why, because Ramblin' Rabbit hasn't really tried to tell anybody else how to beat it.
This is true.
But he was trying to tell Seth that time, so maybe it's a two-step process. I don't know. Maybe
that's the thing with the Fiend's character, is that traveling over different continents kind of messes with his psyche, and maybe that's when the jackhammer is a more powerful weapon against.
I will say this about the Fiend losing the belt. I would have liked to have seen him kept the belt, but to lose that belt to Goldberg that way, I will say this minimizes it some, is that it was the Universal Championship. It's not like he lost a prestigious title. He lost the Doritos Locos title. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he lost the Intercontinental Championship or something that means something. It's just the person who has made that belt mean the most was easily the Fiend, to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a step above the 24/7 European title. Even Kofi Kingston was the SmackDown champion at one point. So I mean, that belt really doesn't carry a lot of weight. I never thought he should have had the belt in the first place. But my God.
Well, Kofi had the actual WWE belt, you remember, and then now it's the Universal belt on SmackDown. So it's different belts in that sense, and so it's not, but still, it's the Universal Championship. It's a belt that they've done everything they can to have it mean something, and literally the two times that they've they've gotten the belt to actually mean a little bit more was by giving it to Lesnar and having him leave the show,
Yeah.
essentially not show up for it, and then giving it to the Fiend and having him turn it into another belt, essentially a totally different looking belt. And it's also the Universal Championship has easily been the most made over belt per capita. Like for it has been changed in the last whatever 3-4 years of its existence. It has been a different belt bi-monthly.
Yeah. Of course, the worst thing about Goldberg having the belt, and you can almost hear in the background Vince McMahon just rubbing his hands together. The big matchup at WrestleMania, Goldberg versus your boy, the big dog, Roman Reigns. What's your predictions with that match?
Well, I think Reigns is going to go over for sure, but I also can't see it not being a botch fest. Like I would love for it not to be, but I can't see it not being a botch fest. And also, man, somebody in the interest of fairness, somebody should have told Drew McIntyre that instead of winning the 30-man over the top rope Royal Rumble, he could have just waited a couple of weeks and said, "I'm next." You know, that's essentially how Roman got the title shot. So,
I mean, you and I remember watching. Was it the first Saudi Arabian pay-per-view with Goldberg and Undertaker? And you and I were both talking about, okay, this can't go longer than 5 minutes. You know, you said that the introductions are going to be longer than the actual match, and then as soon as it became evident that they were going to try to do an actual match, I mean. It just
it turned out to be worse.
Apart.
It was like I was right all along. Like it should have been a 5-second match, but no, that was one of the cringiest matches that I think WWE. It was really bad. It was one of the cringiest matches that they've had. It was certainly like one of the most botch-filled matches that they've had. And to have it on, I know it's not a real pay-per-view in quotation marks, but that was one of the cringiest moments of all of that. I think that's one of the reasons why The Undertaker is going to come back now and face, AJ Styles in another match, is because he knows, at least with AJ, that AJ is going to make him look like $1 million,
Well, it's a pay-per-view that's as good or greater than WrestleMania,
Oh,
so.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that Roman obviously is probably going to win the match, and they're not just going to let him bury Goldberg that quickly, so they're probably going to try to have an actual match. And yeah, it's just going to be a complete shit show.
It'll be an 8-hour show, so with probably an empty arena at that time because of the coronavirus. So an 8-hour empty arena show, my gosh, yeah, no, they're definitely going to have a real match.
God, what if? Like, what do you think the legit odds of that are, that they just have an empty arena for WrestleMania?
My knee-jerk reaction when people ask me if they're going to postpone WrestleMania is no, they'll just sell some Roman Reigns hand sanitizer to everybody and have it. But at the same time, like, they're canceling a lot of stuff worldwide. I could see it getting canceled, but then again, it goes back to my knee-jerk reaction. Capitalism, Florida, no way Tampa Bay is going to pass up a paycheck. You know what I mean? Like that money, there's no way they're going to pass it up. And they have, I promise Vince has contracts with them that says if they do that to him, he'll still be able to have it. And so my knee-jerk reaction is I think it'll go ahead.
Well, I mean, they just, I guess, declared it as an epidemic earlier today or yesterday. So, I mean, it makes you wonder if legally they're even going to allow them to have it,
Well, I mean, legally, the federal government and the state government, make those things. And I don't know. I don't feel like they're going to cancel it right now. Ask me again in a week, and I might feel different. Ask me again in a few days, and I might feel different. But for now, I feel like the litmus test is going to be the Australian Grand Prix, the Formula One race this weekend. If it goes off and people go to it and it's there and everything's fine, then I think everything else will kind of fall in line with that. But if tons of people in Australia can track this because of the Formula One event this weekend, then I think that will be a domino effect on a lot of other events.
Well, I mean, they're in Florida. I mean, what if they just say, hey, we're just going to go do it at Full Sail? Can you imagine WrestleMania at Full Sail?
They have the place rented out. Even if they make them do it with no fans, still feel like they'll do it at the arena.
Yeah.
At Raymond James. They got a pirate ship. They got a pirate theme.
Yeah, they've already bought the pirate ship. I mean, like, they've got to at least, like, throw it out there, right, at this point.
That's what I think they're going to do, for sure.
Yeah. Other WrestleMania matches, of course, The Fiend is going to go up against John Cena. I mean, I don't know. John Cena looks like he's aged about 20 years, like in the last 4 years. And then you're talking about ruthless aggression. I was watching that the other day, the whole spiel about John Cena, the rapping wrestler.
It's basic thugonomics. I think that John Cena is, needed some cool off time, needed a bit of a break, and he got it. And I feel like he's, I don't know. I think he still can go out and work a lot, but I don't know that that's necessarily what he wants to do. I don't know. But I think that that's a good matchup. I don't have any problem with the Fiend and John Cena at WrestleMania. I think that's fine.
Does John Cena have a injury history? Is there a particular reason that he walked away, or was it just kind of his own volition?
Yeah, it was just a lot of stuff. But I don't think he's had some really bad injuries. He's torn his pectoral muscle off the bone. He's torn, I think, a bicep off the bone as well, like at the insertion point. And so those are both pretty. I think he's done that on both sides. But either way, he's had some pretty bad injuries before. But I don't think that's necessarily what it was. I think it was just, just John Cena having been the fact that he's always the same character and always has been essentially the same since the Thugonomics. John Cena, he's all the way through been just that good guy. And so I think that's also a thing that he just needed some time to cool down and do some other stuff and see what he could get from the rest of media and entertainment. And he's going to be in he's a bad guy in the new Fast and the Furious movie. Like, he's got a lot of stuff going on. I don't have any problem with him and the Fiend at WrestleMania. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think on paper that should be a really good match. John Cena and Bray Wyatt, I mean, they're both great workers. I think they'll be able to do something really cool. I think the AJ Styles and Undertaker match is very intriguing. I think that promises to be a pretty decent match. But there's nobody you can team up with Goldberg that's going to put him over, So
including the Undertaker.
Including the Undertaker, yes. So yeah, Super Showdown or whatever that was went down.
Got to see Ricochet just totally get stomped by Brock Lesnar. What? Like, imagine being Brock Lesnar and flying on that plane to Saudi Arabia and getting off that plane and getting a hotel and getting, having dinner and getting up the next day and going out there saying, okay, yeah, so talking about the match and then having that match and it be that quick and then be like, okay. And who knows how much he made for that? Like, it was probably a ridiculous amount of money for that.
Oh, you've got to at least assume so. But I mean, I'm glad they didn't try the Daniel Bryan angle where they at least tried to make it look like he was competitive. I mean, they went in there and he basically dominated Ricochet as he should. So that was good.
Yeah. I think Ricochet is just his. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He doesn't. He's kind of on eggshells, and he doesn't have that Daniel Bryan mentality of no, I'm gonna and push it further. I think he just kind of was like.
Speaking of Daniel Bryan, to skip ahead a little bit, his match with Drew Gulak in this last pay-per-view I thought was amazing. I know that you probably really liked it because I feel like you probably personally identify with Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak. I think Drew Gulak kind of looks like you in a way, and I feel like if you were a wrestler, you would probably be Drew Gulak. Okay, so we were having some technical difficulties, but I think we're back on now. Before we broke, I was bringing up the Drew Gulak and Daniel Bryan match that was on the pay-per-view this last Sunday, talking about how good it was, and I also brought up the fact that I think if you were a wrestler, you would probably be Drew Gulak. Am I off base with that?
No, I think that's pretty accurate. I thought the entire Elimination Chamber pay per view was pretty good. I liked all of the matches on it. I thought it was really a kind of a young guys pay per view. Like there was a lot of young talent on there, both girls and guys.
My issue with WWE is, like, I know they're pushing the NXT people, and when I say NXT people, I mean the people that have just recently come over from NXT. I mean, for me, Street Profits are still associated with NXT. Shayna Baszler's obviously still associated with NXT. I feel like they're trying so hard to get all those people over that I worry that they're kind of burying their talent in the process of doing that. I mean, having Shayna come out, and I know they're really trying to build up the WrestleMania match with Becky Lynch, but having her come out and just, like, dominate like that is, I don't know.
I don't know. I obviously there was that was probably the worst paced match in recent WWE history. But I mean, other than that, I don't see any difference in it and what Braun Strowman did. I mean, it's like WWE. For how many times they've botched it, they know how to make stars out of people. They know how to build up stars and stuff. And so I didn't have any problem with Shayna's match and stuff the way it went, but there were a lot of other ways it could have gone. So because any match where there's a lot of other theories and stuff, that's going to naturally cause a bunch of hard feelings because some people are going to feel like they didn't get what they wanted.
I felt like the men's Elimination Chamber was a bit sloppy, and I felt like, I texted you when Kofi kind of slipped coming off the top turnbuckle early on in the match. I really think he probably hurt his ankle when he did that, and I felt like that kind of set the pace for the rest of the match. I thought something was wrong with Otis. I mean, like, go back and watch it. Like, that part in the match when he came inside the ring and then outside of the ring and then back inside the ring, like he didn't know where he was supposed to be, and he's kind of like wandering around through a lot of the match. Whenever the Lucha House Party guy came from the very top of the cage, everybody sold it except for Otis. Like, I don't know, just kind of something. I felt like something weird was going on with Otis during the match.
Well, it was a lot of people that were working essentially their first match of that kind, and so you're naturally going to have that. But that's I mean, for how bad that match was, it wasn't nearly as bad as most pay-per-view AEW matches. Like, it was clean. It was just like you said, there's like a little pacing, there's obviously some people being a little green, in that environment and stuff. Yeah. But I don't know, that's what's gonna happen with stuff like that. Like, you're never going. I can't. My best memory of all time of the Elimination Chamber, I think, like the only iconic thing of that is when John Cena survived that, and then Edge cashed in the first Money in the Bank right after that. That really doesn't have anything to do with the Elimination Chamber, other than that you've been through this long, elimination style match, like, in that sense. So
it was disappointing with the women's elimination match, because I felt like it was going so well. Like, I really liked it, and then all of a sudden Shayna comes in and they just put her over, just had her just come in there and take everybody out, to the point to where she's waiting for Asuka to come out of her pod. I think that's always weird verbiage, pod. Like, we're waiting for them to come out of their pod.
She waited either. Remember, she waits before that too, so that's also kind of weird how there was 2 long waits in there, 2 or 3 long waits in there, and like I said, the pacing was all off on that for sure. Absolutely, definitely.
I don't know. I missed the first part of the pay-per-view, so I had to go back and watch the Daniel Bryan match. But I honestly thought that was probably the best match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really technical match, really good match. They're both really good in the ring, and I like that Daniel Bryan wanted to work with him and bring somebody that a lot of fans, at least, maybe not everybody, but a lot of fans at least feel like is underrated and doesn't get enough screen time with WWE. But still, yeah, no, I thought it was a great match as well. I liked the tag stuff. I thought it was a good pay-per-view. I really did. I thought it was a really good pay-per-view. I guess I think it's kind of a callback. I guess Seth Rollins really doesn't like popcorn because if you remember when Dean Ambrose won the championship at TLC that time, he also threw popcorn on Seth and came down from the row like that. So I guess that was a callback. I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought the tag match was pretty good. You know, I'm a big fan of the Street Profits. I really like Montez Ford. You know, like Cornette hates the Street Profits, but he really likes Montez Ford. You know, his splash that he does off the top rope, I mean, like, who does it better than him? Just the amount of air that he's able to get under it, I think, is visually...
It does look spectacular, for sure. Have you heard that on his show, Sam Roberts has said on his radio show, has said before that because when he's on the pre-show, sometimes he talks shit about Bianca Belair, that Montez stares him down anytime he sees him backstage. he just stares him down and makes him feel uncomfortable.
Just the way he stares, like, that's hilarious. Yeah. But like, yeah, going back to Drew Gulak, you know, I like the 205 guys, but you know, kind of the knock on a lot of those guys is they don't have a lot of personality. But like, you know, Gulak obviously has a lot of personality, and Tony Nese, dude, I love Tony Nese. Like when he comes out and he has like his costume that has the abs cut out, and he like counts his abs before he walks down the aisle. I mean, like that's gold. I really feel like
he used to have like a protein shake, like a pre-workout or a protein shake, and he used to carry that around with him. I think that's Riddick Moss's character now.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of NFL's athletes, Rob Gronkowski is supposedly done on his deal with WWE. He supposedly reached an agreement with the WWE.
So what do you think that is? You think that's just a WrestleMania
appearance?
Greatest
day of Mojo Rawley's career.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Except for maybe
by hanging in there and knowing Rob Gronkowski, he has now ensured that he will have a payday as long as Rob Gronkowski is still there.
Probably number 2.
Because if Gronk says, Mojo's gone, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, so Mojo's staying.
Yeah, I can't get over the promo that Jericho did when he kept repeating. I think wasn't it the Greatest Royal Rumble, and he had his list out and he just kept saying Mojo Rawley like over and over again. Mojo Rawley. So anytime I think about Mojo Rawley, that's what I think about. So let's go ahead and let's get back to the Wednesday Night Wars. I think. And even Cornette is talking about this, you know, I think AEW is almost, not only have they leapfrogged NXT, but they're borderline leapfrogging WWE at this point. I mean, I never thought I would say that. You know, when they first started doing their first shows, I was like, well, it's going to be hard for them to even get over NXT. But now, like, they're putting together a really good product, you know, in spite of, a couple of things, but... And, of course, Jericho's leaving for 60 days, so we'll see how that will affect it. But there's also going to be new stars coming in. Matt Hardy, presumably. Big rumor that Luke Harper's going to be Jake the Snake's enforcer that's coming in to challenge Cody Rhodes or whatever. I think there's definitely some good times ahead.
I mean, they're still giving away tickets. Like, an average show for them is... Some of their shows in the last month have been 4,000 people, and their floor should be 6,000 people for an event. You know what I mean? Their absolute floor for their events, as few events as they have, their absolute floor should be 6,000 people. And they've had TV tapings where they had 4,000 people, and I'm talking about like right at the best example is Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an apples to apples comparison between AEW's show in Philadelphia the other night and then Elimination Chamber the other night. That's an apples to apples comparison, because that's what a lot of people like to call one of the throwaway pay-per-views. So it's a low show versus AEW stuff. Every single show is super important. So a throwaway WWE show to an important AEW show, and they did 9,000 people, and WWE at the pay-per-view did over 14,000. So in house, and so that's a perfect example of they're still not selling tickets like they were in the beginning. In the beginning, you couldn't touch their tickets, and now as they move out of those safe markets, they're finding that there's some places they may not be able to come back to.
I mean, I almost have this theory that, as ludicrous as it sounds, I have this theory that they set the bar so low when they first came out that they knew there was going to be nowhere to go but up. And it seems like now that their product is getting better, is it almost too late for them to be able to, put asses in the seats?
Yeah, and I mean they're starting to, I don't know, talent is starting to other than when Kaylee Ray left at the beginning, you didn't really hear anything grumbly from their talent until a week or two ago when what's the guy's name from the tag team that wears the skeleton costumes? What's the name of that? Anyway.
Oh, the green guys.
Yeah,
not the Dark Order.
That's how popular they are.
Yeah,
yeah. No, it's the South African guy and then the other guy from America. His name is he's a really good underground.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah. I feel bad for not remembering his name, but
it happens. I do that at least 4 times a podcast. So yeah.
He put out a deal that he was being basically controlled. Like they wanted the Young Bucks, the other people on the show, to be able to do certain moves, and so they didn't have him do them, which is something that WWE does, that everybody does. But that was something that AEW was kind of not going to do. But when you have the guys who are ending the pay-per-view with their matches that are also the owners of the company and the bookers for the company, I mean, you're going to run into that now. You're going to start fighting for time with the guys who are, like I said, if not the owners and bookers, at least the bookers. You know what I mean? They have a say in the booking, even if they aren't one of the few guys that own the company. And so they're going to start running into that. Plus, I feel like they have not done as good of a job as they could have of capitalizing on other media outlets to do stuff. If they were in the news as much, because WWE has decided to go all in with that, with the ESPN deal originally and now with the Fox deal. And so if they were on stuff like that, it would almost put the onus back on WWE to either stop doing that or to continue to do it and add to their legitimacy. So those are things I think they have underutilized, but their pay-per-views are totally awesome, and that will 100% pay the bills and keep the lights on for as long as it works. So ultimately, that's really the big deal. They've got the TV deal, and they have to keep the TV deal. But even if they lose the TV deal, if they can keep getting the pay-per-views that buys that they're getting right now, that'll keep the lights on. Some people might, they might not have as robust of a roster, but they can keep the lights on for sure. The problem is that's not what they want to do. They don't want to be Impact or something like that just keeps the lights on. They want to really do some, buys and really make some money. But it's a tough ask because anything you do, WWE can just cover. You know what I mean? Like if you come out with something that works really well, WWE can just copy it and then capitalize on it. And so it's really, really tough when you're going against somebody that has that many hours of weekly programming to cover you.
Yeah, what is it called? Counter programming or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it makes sense. Going back to the whole thing with the Young Bucks and the other tag team, it makes sense if you're telling the undercard guys like, hey, let's save some of this stuff for so it'll pop a little bit better, like when we get to the actual headlining matches. But if they're straight up telling them like, hey, you can't do these moves, like these moves have to be reserved strictly for us, that's kind of getting a little bit out of line. But I mean, that's kind of AEW's calling card, is just every match has to be this 30-minute Iron Man with like more spots than you can count, and then like by the time it gets to the main card or the main events, it's like everybody's kind of tired of it by then. But I love. I still haven't been able to watch the pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view that they had with MJF and Cody Rhodes. I really probably need to watch that match. I've just heard nothing but good things about it. And
wow, that's crazy you haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
No, it's really good.
And it was funny, Cornette talking about during Dynamite last week. They had the little package showing highlights of the Kenny Omega and Young Bucks and that match, and there had these quotes from wrestling writers or whatever that was in it. It seems like kind of self-grandizing maybe a little bit.
Nah, from wrestling people who journalists, if that's what you want to call it. I don't want to use that word. That's not the right word.
I mean, I feel like, and I haven't seen that match either, but I feel like Dave Meltzer probably made that the first ever 6-star match. Is that possible?
13.5 stars. No, there's a 7-star Kenny Omega match. So.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, I got a text message. NXT last week with the cage match? Everything's kind of running together, but
yeah, it would have been a week ago today. Today will be the new NXT.
I felt like after AEW probably had one of their strongest Dynamites that they've probably ever had, and then NXT also had one of its best Wednesday night shows last week. I mean, last Wednesday it was basically 4 hours of pretty good content.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great, and I thought everything was pushing everybody. I mean, I like I said, I don't think it's necessarily bad, bro. It's just comparatively, I have those criticisms, like to the Dave Meltzer thing and stuff. We're talking about number of stuff. There were Johnny Gargano was involved in multiple 5-star matches in a year before AEW, and now with AEW, like you, as you were saying, like I think there will be a 7 or a 6-star match soon. I was saying something about this to someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, well, AEW only has 2 5-star matches," and I was like, "Bro, 2 out of what, like 50? You know what I'm saying? Like that's an insanely high ratio compared to anything, especially even small companies that aren't as big as WWE or New Japan, but compared to those, that's a drop in the pan." And so that's a lot of those matches. I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. I'm just saying that now those star ratings are a little skewed because, I mean, he's essentially a paid employee of AEW. So Meltzer's his credibility is on the wane, at least in that department.
If it's Young Bucks or if it's Kenny Omega,
good. I think both shows were good. I think there were matches on both shows last week, like you were talking about, that could have been a 5-star, if not matches, segments. Because like I really liked the segment with Jake the Snake and stuff. I thought all this stuff was good, but you can't like the stuff with Jake the Snake and then be like, well, this Goldberg stuff is just fucking terrible. You can't do both of those. Like you have to give and take.
Jake the Snake's not wrestling. He doesn't have a belt. They're not putting a belt on Jake the Snake.
Fair enough. I guess that is a fair comparison.
Like, it's still mind-boggling to me that Goldberg is the champion. Like, what? It doesn't make sense.
That's a fair point. I don't know, man. Goldberg won a high percentage of his matches, so.
Yeah, it's fake fighting at the end of the day. But as I was saying, if it's Young Bucks, Dave Meltzer's already like penciling in a 5-star match. I mean, they would have to really screw it up for him to not give them a 5-star match, and then if it's Kenny Omega, same thing. So if it's Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, I mean, yeah, we're starting to get to 7-8 star match territory right there. You want to talk a little bit of racing?
Sure. Jack Evans is that guy's name that we were thinking of a minute ago, and his tag team partner is Angelico. He's the guy from
Angelico.
Jack Evans.
Yeah, those guys are terrible.
That's the guy who was saying that he was being basically handcuffed on some of his moves.
Because I mean, you saw, were they not in the very first match that they had like the Royal Rumble?
That's the other side of it, is those guys have to understand their role in that whole thing. I mean, yes, if you're in a tag team match with, like towards, even if it's not towards the end of the card, if it's like a championship match or something, but they weren't even in a championship match. It was just a tag team match. And so how can you not expect to be handcuffed in that situation? But either way, the point of it is everything, there was no complaints from any talent. And then now there obviously is something. So,
I mean, you're kind of seeing they've basically found out what hasn't worked, and they're kind of pulling some of that back. They're not really using that particular tag team as much as they used to, but they're still pushing some other Drek, like the Dark Order. But
I think one of the main situations was on Dynamite a few weeks ago when Cody jumped off the cage. Okay, so like on that match, we're not going to let anybody do any super duper high spots the whole card, because it's 2 hours of programming that we're going to do live, and at the end of it, somebody's going to risk their life doing this one cool thing, and it'll look so much more spectacular if for one show we don't do any super high stuff. You know what I mean? Like super high spots like that. And I don't think that's asking too much, but apparently at least he did, and at least Jack Evans did. And so that's what I'm saying, is it's that's the same exact criticism essentially that Jon Moxley was saying when he left, and you know what I mean? He was more articulate about it, and he had a lot more, specific examples that were obviously different than that specific example. But it's the general theme of why he left there, and now it's the same thing here. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same issue. Also, while we're mentioning Moxley, can't be understated now that his whole gas mask gimmick would be way cooler and would go over way better now during the Corona thing. Like, it's like the WWE writers saw into the future.
Yeah, they tend to do that from time to time.
Dewey Foley, man.
I mean, it's a promotion where the wrestlers are basically in charge of all the writing and all that, which is a complete opposite from WWE.
You mean like WCW was?
Yeah. But somebody telling another wrestler like to maybe pull it back a little bit has got to be like telling a guitar player to turn his amp down, and that usually just does not go over very well. And if they do it about the least amount that they can, and then they just kind of turn it up whenever you're not looking. Okay, so a lot of racing this weekend. I just got done watching. I finally watched the race from Sunday in Phoenix. I watched. They had a GT.
That was a super awesome race. I liked the Saturday race with the Xfinity cars, and I liked the Sunday race for the main reason of that's going to be the championship this year, and that's such a crazy track to have the championship on, because even though it's a mile and it's flat, like it's got that dog leg and it races like a short track, and it's a fucking wild track, and we got to see who's good there and who's not. I mean, it was that was super exciting race. Easily the most exciting race so far this season. Even more exciting than Daytona for me, because it was something. I'm still intrigued by the where they've moved the start-finish line and the way the starts go there, because it encourages everybody to jump down under the shortcut.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that race, that was super awesome. That was a tremendous NASCAR race. Of course, Joey Logano won it, so that sucks, but still a super awesome race.
Joey Logano for me is he's getting a little bit of heat. I don't know, like, not that I dislike him, like, but I don't, he's got a very punchable face. I'll say that.
He coined the phrase "awesome sauce."
Awesome, yeah. I think that's what's
calling the PJ Yeah, I am okay with calling the PJ1 the spray down artificial traction compound that NASCAR uses sometimes on the outer lanes to give the cars another possible lane to drive in, like a little more traction on the higher part of the track. He coined the phrase "awesome sauce" this weekend while he was calling the Xfinity race with Clint Boyer, and I am okay with everybody using that. But I kind of was hoping that Harvick was gonna or somebody was gonna get to his bumper on the towards the end there with the restarts. The infinite. That's the other thing. Oh man, the championship's gonna be so awesome because they have unlimited overtimes, and it's just gonna be overtime after overtime after overtime after overtime. Oh man, it's gonna go into the night. It's gonna be amazing, and it's a 500-mile race instead of the 350 or whatever it was this weekend.
Oh damn!
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I think it was 300.
I'm super excited about the championship now being at Phoenix, and I loved the race this weekend. I thought it was extremely good.
Okay, I think we're back. So we were, before I realized I wasn't recording, we were kind of talking about the changes that are going to be taking place with sporting events in general over the next 6 months. They announced that March Madness is going to be completely empty arena. They announced that the Rangers are changing where they're going to open their season at. They're talking, NBA is basically going to start going to empty arena matches, or not matches, but it's basically what they're going to be. And can you imagine the national championship is going to be played to no people? Like,
I did not know about the March Madness, the NCAA tournament. I didn't know about it until you just mentioned that now, and
yep.
So that really changes that again. That changes my view on this. I knew the Ivy League had canceled, and some other leagues had canceled their tournaments and just given the automatic bid to the conference winners, but I didn't see that happening. That's crazy.
I mean, they're pulling the plug on everything right now.
That's pretty wild.
Music festivals.
I mean, like you said earlier, it was declared a pandemic today by the World Health Organization. So,
yeah, I mean,
everybody listens to the Who.
They announced that media is not going to be allowed in locker rooms anymore, and I was listening to the ticket today, and they were talking about how they can't imagine a scenario in which they'll pick that back up. Basically, that's probably the end of media being allowed in locker rooms, probably from here on out, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good idea. I know a lot of people are hesitant to even go to the gym right now because that's such a grody place of, body fluid transfer, especially group classes and things like that. So I know a lot of people are changing quite a bit from it. I know other people are capitalizing on the cheap travel. I think right now you can get about a $18 round trip ticket to Italy. So I know a lot of people are capitalizing on that. That in and of itself may be why it's spreading so fast. It's because this is kind of a weakness of capitalism. The market is basically incentivizing people to travel, even if they don't feel good. Or even if they aren't sure, like the market is incentivizing that by when travel is this low, especially flight travel like that, you can get prices through the floor because they're not going to. If one person, if a few people are there to take the flight, they're going to have the flight. They're not going to cancel it altogether, and they're obligated to do so many in some instances. So the market incentivizes people to take risks like that with travel right now.
Must crush capitalism. That's what's so surprising to me, that they're shutting all this stuff down. They're not letting people participate in these sporting events just because of the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that are going to be missed out over all these public events over the next few years. Even going down to WrestleMania, but Vince, in any way possible, is going to try to fight it. But man, that's going to be so weird if it's an empty arena for WrestleMania. Like,
It will be weird, but now, I mean, I at the beginning of this podcast, I said my knee-jerk reaction is that is going to happen, and ask me again in a week or ask me again in a few days. And when you said that about the NCAA tournament just now, that changed my opinion at least a little bit of it. I mean, I can now much more see it happening than not happening. You know what I mean? That definitely changed my.
I mean, I made a video, I guess a week ago, talking about them shutting down Ultra Festival, and then the next day they announced South by Southwest was shut down, and like I was shocked that they shut down Ultra
Yeah, I
Festival,
thought
and
that
then,
was a
but
little.
I mean, it's just kind
I thought
of.
that was. I thought South by was a little too much. I thought that was. I was like, oh, that's a little premature. That's a little, honestly, a little arrogant to think that many people are going to go to that. But I mean, it is international at the end of the day, and they were doing apparently the responsible thing. Now they look like geniuses. Now they look like totally like, oh yeah, way ahead of the curve.
I'm just of the opinion, and I know I'm probably in the minority, particularly with South by Southwest. I feel like you're more likely to get hit by a car down there than to contract the coronavirus. But it's not in my position to make these decisions. So, whatever. I'm sure they did their research before they tried to make that decision. But the thing with South by Southwest is, there's been headlining acts that have said they're still going to fly down there. There's probably going to be other events that are going to be booked by local bookers or whatever. So it's not going to be like completely dead, but it's going to take a definitely significant hit.
I'm not going.
I've never gone, so I'm definitely not missing out on anything. So
one nice thing, if it may allow there to be, because it was going to be during right in the middle of football season, it may allow people to go to the IndyCar race there, or some things like that. Local, I mean, like I say, local people from Texas to go to the IndyCar race or to go to the NASCAR race, because it's freed up some. I'm sure they're going to be just giving those NASCAR tickets away this year at Texas Motor Speedway, because they usually do, and this year especially, I'm sure they will be, if they even have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if all those events actually do go off, the smaller ones, I think maybe it'll be a weird year and it'll be only local people, but I think there will probably be some people that go to those, because I don't think everybody is, and there may be tons of masks on at the event, but still, I think there will be some people at those events.
So you're pretty sure that you don't think NASCAR is going to institute some sort of empty.
NASCAR will not do that unless President.
See, this is why I like NASCAR.
Exactly, NASCAR doesn't.
Ain't a bunch of bitches.
If you run into another guy and wreck him out of the race, no fault of his, and win the race, they will give you a check for money. That is. I mean, like, the whole thing with Trump with the 500 and everything, like, oh yeah, no, I don't think anything that, as long as Trump still is acting like this is something that is fake news or whatever, something that he wants to, that NASCAR will 100% stay lockstep with that. Second off, it's not like NASCAR is that, I don't know, I feel like everybody could get there and be okay, and you don't have to sit that close to each other at a NASCAR track anymore. Like, there's not any NASCAR tracks where it's like, oh, this place is packed capacity. You know what I mean? You can spread out.
Well, yeah, NASCAR's coming up.
Social distancing.
Yeah. NASCAR at Texas Motor Speedway coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm planning on going to at least one race. I really want to go to the truck race, experience that. So maybe the ticket prices will fall through the bottom, and I'll be able to go through all three races. And I'm still planning on going. I'm not deterred by coronavirus whatsoever. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, we're around the hour mark. I think we'll edit this down. It might be a little bit shorter, but so I want to go ahead and hop off. Anything you want to say before we cut this tape?
This weekend, Formula One will start in Australia, and we'll get to see some stuff with the rules. Mercedes got a couple of systems that are on their car that are a little touchy as to whether or not they will be legal or not, and so that will be interesting watching that. There's also been some, as we're talking about, the Stop F1 protests in Australia because they want the social distancing from coronavirus. They don't want people going to it. And then, of course, NASCAR will be in Atlanta. They like to call the fastest track. We don't know what the new package will do there, but I'm sure it will be good. And then, of course, tonight you've got both Dynamite and NXT, and so both of those will be exciting to watch. I guess that's about it, though.
It's definitely a lot of stuff to look out for. Kickoff of F1, definitely exciting. Very fascinated to see how all this is going to pan out with the empty arenas and all that, so it's going to be very interesting. All right, with that, this is Atomic Moon. We've been talking wrestling for the last hour or so. Thank you guys for listening. I will see you guys next time.